Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today we are at Zion Lutheran Church in Gordonville, Missouri, not far from where we were last week. With me again is Matt Palisch. He is the organist and director of music at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Jackson, Missouri, also adjunct professor of organ at Southeast Missouri State University. And he's brought us here to another Hinners organ, very similar, identical in stop list and design to the one we saw last week.
Right.
This one is probably older.
Yeah, we're thinking like late 1800s, maybe right at the turn of the century. Notable because of some of the Victorian features of the case specifically, and also a flat pedal board.
Yeah, the pedal board's flat, and we have a different type of swell shoe.
We have a swell shoe on the far right, much like you'd find in an early French instrument.
But other than that, it's and the stenciled facade, smaller facade. The other one had a wider facade. But other than that, it's the exact same organ on the inside. Hinners was building the same exact package organ.
Exactly.
And this church ordered it out of the same catalog, probably just later, as the other church, and it was delivered on a train. Somebody set it up here, and that's how we got these Hinners organs. These were designed to be workhorses for rural churches like this one. You didn't have somebody who could come in and tune it and service it all the time. So it's really well built, and it's been here for over 100 years, as far as we know.
At least.
Now this one has been completely restored, as opposed to the one we saw before. So things like the engraving, the knobs have been redone, but the case has been cleaned up and finished. The pipes have been re-stenciled, and it all just looks wonderful.
As you said, these organs are really workhorses. They were so well built, so solid. Everything was really first-rate material, and they were meant to play hymns and liturgy. They weren't necessarily recital instruments, although you can get around to Bach, Prelude, and Fugue on them, okay. But really just meant for the country church in the cornfield, and gave the small country parish the grandeur, the sound of a pipe organ without the great expense or the great ongoing maintenance that you find with a larger instrument.
One of the reasons that a lot of people have never heard of Hinners or have never seen one is because they aren't where the people are. Their target market was the rural church who couldn't afford to go or wouldn't be visited by a salesman. They sold these through catalogs, and they mail ordered them, and they showed up on a train. So and because of that time period too, a lot of them have been replaced. They haven't been restored like this one, so people don't always see them.
It's been said that John Hinners was much like Henry Ford in that he brought sort of mass production to everyone through the mail, through general means where you didn't have to go to the organ builder to visit the shop and so forth. You could order an instrument right out of the catalog.
And even he was building, this one being older than the previous one, the parts, or the pipes came from another company. They were Gottfried pipes from Philadelphia. He was ordering his stuff and just turning around and building the organs. I was reading, at one point they were building 3 pipe organs a month. And it usually took about a month from the time you ordered it until your organ showed up on the train in town. So they were quite a organ building workhorse, and I'm surprised there's not more of them around. I think it's just
close to 3,000.
Yeah, their opus numbers are over 3,000. But they're out in places where people don't know where they are, and if they haven't been preserved, then
well, and as he was building reed organs, I think it was the logical step then for a church to upgrade essentially to a small pipe organ, and he could help them with that process.
That's true.
It was built in 1904. That's when we got it. That's when the Zion Lutheran bought it. My wife's grandfather had just been married. They thought that they needed a pipe organ. So he and 3 or 4 other officers of the congregation back then went out one Sunday afternoon, and they got the $4,000 plus to buy the organ and have it installed. That's how it all got started. My father was the pastor. He was called here as pastor in 1938. I was 10 years old, going on 11. And when we came here, we were thrilled. It was going to be a pipe organ, a pipe organ. Man, my brother Rollin, who had just gone to St. Paul's College, was thrilled to death. But he was a little disappointed because he never got along too well with the flat pedal board. We got electricity here in late 1939. So in 1940, we put in an electric pump, bellows. I I didn't do much pumping, but we had regular pumpers that we paid 25 cents a Sunday to pump the organ. Back in the 30s, there wasn't much money around. A quarter wasn't all that bad for a church service. In 1940, they celebrated the 75th anniversary of the congregation. My dad had just been here 2 years. He had the organ boxed in. That wasn't any good because the sound didn't penetrate. It was all boxed in except for the very front. Now, since it was boxed in, the serviceman couldn't get to it right. He always had to take out some of the front pipes, and so he crawled in there to get to the board on which you stand to do the tuning. But very, very seldom did we have it tuned. About a few years before 2002, we got in touch with Alan Nagel in St. Louis Pipe Organ Company, and he came down and did his best. Now, he crawled around behind through a little door that you get behind, and he took off a couple of panels back there. But he was not happy with the arrangement. He said, you should take all this wallboard down, and he said, you should expose the organ, and then we'll rebuild it the way it was, or like they were originally. And we were very happy. And we've been pretty happy with it since.
So it's really great to see this instrument still playing 114 years from its original installation. And it was installed in another church originally.
The original church building, and it was moved then to this building when it was built in 19.
And they've done their best to make it sound its best.
Right.
And having it rebuilt was good. I'm glad they're taking care of it and keeping this thing playing for another 100 and something years.
Absolutely.
These Hinners organs are proving
They're workhorses. They're workhorses.
And it's not the only one in the area, right?
No, we've seen the twins, Brent, but honestly, there's a triplet in the
There's
mix.
still one more Hinners organ.
There's another Hinners.
They're all over the Missouri
They
countryside.
are. They are.
Okay, well, let's go look at it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so Matt, where are we? Where have you brought me?
We're in Pocohontas, Missouri.
Okay.
Yes, at St. John's Lutheran Church.
And behind us, this is yet one more Hinners organ.
This is the third in our trilogy of Hinners.
And
Yes.
what year was this one built?
1928. We see a lot of similarities in the key desk and the overall design of the casework.
Yeah, the stock list is exactly the same.
Exactly the
Now,
same.
there's some modernizations. The casework's a little different, and it matches the church. But they did do customizations, even on these stock models.
Right.
If you ask for it, you can pay for extra casework or things.
Exactly. We also have combination pedals on this instrument, which gives us presets of sorts.
Which I don't know if there were other Hinners that had those, and this was a modernization, or if it was a customization.
Right. Yeah,
So
not sure.
interesting to see. It's voiced perfectly for the room. It's
It
got
is.
the same sort of sound as the Emmanuel organ from 1925.
Right.
This was also added as this is after Albert Hinners took over from his father, after his father died. And he was not for modernizing the company or changing anything. And so that's one reason we still have this stock model.
Right.
At a time when other companies are exploring electric action.
Yes.
And tubular pneumatic and things like that. So-
Right, exactly.
But
We're still seeing divided stops and so forth, so you can do solo work. And so it really does, though, keep the instrument very versatile for being a one-man organ.
It's just they weren't up for changing anything.
weren't.
This is the same model as we saw
Exactly.
from 1904. 20 years later, they're still living the same instrument,
Exactly.
but it works.
Hi, well, here we are again. Sorry about that last shot going in and out of focus. Something was up with the camera's autofocus, and none of us caught that while we were shooting it. So instead, I'm just going to cut it off here. There's one last thing we were talking about that I wanted to bring up. There were some members of the church there while we were shooting that, and they had mentioned, as many of these organs were delivered to small towns on trains, theirs was actually delivered by steamboat. They have in their collective memory the story of the congregation having to go down to the Mississippi River, which was just a few miles away, and actually pick up their organ from a steamboat loading dock back in 1924. So that was just a neat story. That organ had been completely restored. Both of them we saw today had been. The one we saw last week was not. And if you missed that video, here's a link to it up here somewhere. You can go back and watch that. We talk about all the stops and listen to the organ. If you want to hear more organ music, as always, we have 3 streaming audio stations: organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. You can find links to all of those at organ.media. That's our website. Also at organ.media, there is a support tab. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are completely supported by those who enjoy the content we produce, our stations and our YouTube channel. So if you enjoy these videos and want to help make more, go to organ.media, click on support. We even have a special video sponsorship level. It's $75, and that goes towards making one video. Now, if that's, and we'll even put your name down at the bottom of the video if you help us make one. If that's too much, if that's not something you can do, we also have a weekly $1.50 contribution, and over the course of a year, that adds up to about $75. So that's another way you can help us continue to make these videos. My thanks today to Matt Palisch for guiding us through these instruments and showing them to us, and also to Christopher Sower, who now takes care of all 3 of these instruments. Thank you for watching. If you want to get notifications when we have new videos uploaded, then hit the subscribe button. And if you like the video, you can click the little thumbs up button too. We appreciate that too. I'm Brent Johnson, and I'll talk to you next week.